In our 8 years of love, Martin also hated my best friend for 8 years. What right does she have to comment on us? Stay away from her. But later, it was he who started to approach her. The engagement ring I had waited for 8 years to receive became the Children's Day gift he gave her. When I cried and questioned him, he mocked me instead. Isn't she your best friend? Why are you being so hypocritical? Chapter 1. When I walked out of the lab, I happened to see a WeChat article about a senior's engagement. My fingertip paused on the screen for a moment. Still, I clicked like and sent a screenshot to Martin. It took him a long while to reply. Just a few words, that's nice. I stopped walking. Are you busy right now? After quite some time, he finally sent another message. Yeah, the carelessness and coldness in his tone, even through the screen, still seeped through the words. Then go ahead. Focus on your work. I had originally wanted to half-jokingly ask him, so, when are we getting engaged? But staring at those icy words, the courage I had finally gathered vanished. Not a single word came out. This was already our 8th year together. I was in my first year of doctoral studies, while Martin's company had already secured hundreds of millions in funding. Tell me, when do you think he plans to propose to me? I asked my friends. Could it be that he's too busy with work to realize it? Should I give him a hint? Absolutely not. She shook her head repeatedly, advising me sincerely. What kind of woman brings that up herself? It's so cheap. Don't worry, you're still studying anyway. Maybe Martin is just waiting until his career stabilizes more before he proposes. Chapter 2. On the way home, heavy rain suddenly poured down. I hadn't brought an umbrella, so I rushed under my backpack to find cover. But I missed a step and fell straight into a puddle. Soaked. Limping awkwardly, I dragged myself under a roof and thought about calling Martin. No answer. I typed out the message. I hurt myself. Can you come pick me up? Just as I was about to hit send, my eyes shifted, and through the floor-to-ceiling window, I saw Martin inside a restaurant. He wore a white shirt, sleeves casually rolled up, his gaze relaxed and warm, fixed on the person across from him. Sitting opposite him was my best friend, Esther. She held a red velvet box in her hands. Inside a sparkling pink diamond ring. The rain roared, and the glass separated us. I couldn't hear a sound, but I clearly saw her lips. Thank you. I really like it. I stood frozen outside the window. The chill crept up from the dirty, wet hem of my skirt, seeping into my bones. My backpack, along with all the documents inside, was drenched. I couldn't stop trembling. Just before the tears fell, Martin suddenly sensed something, turning his head through the glass. Our eyes met. He shot up from his seat. Olivia. Chapter 3. When the waiter led me inside, the restaurant was filled with the mellow sound of a cello. Because I looked so bedraggled, nearly every gaze turned toward me. Olivia. What brings you here? Esther, calm as ever, warmly hooked her arm through mine. I was just telling Martin, today's Children's Day. We should end the celebration early so he can go home and spend the holiday with you. I looked at her. Celebration? Yes. The company finally signed a big contract today. We were going to celebrate with everyone, but they all went home for the holiday, so it's just poor Martin and me left here. What's so special about Children's Day? Martin frowned slightly, let out a mocking laugh, and said, Don't assume Olivia is as childish as you are. Though she was only interning at his company, Esther wasn't afraid of him at all. She simply rolled her eyes. Yes, I'm childish. But our great Martin is always the most mature one. It was an easy, familiar banter, not hostile, but rather flirtatious, like teasing between lovers. I blinked away the raindrops clinging to my lashes, fixing my gaze firmly on Martin. The ring. Why did you give her a ring? He hesitated for a moment before saying, It's Children's Day, just a toy for a little girl. I turned to Esther, just in time to catch a fleeting smile in her eyes. Cold, laced with mockery and malice. But when I looked again, it had already dissolved into her usual innocence and eagerness. Oh, that? It's not a real diamond ring. Just a fake. A toy. A few days ago, I confessed to the guy I liked. But he rejected me. I was really sad. So Martin bought this to cheer me up. Right. Martin? In Martin's usually calm and detached eyes, Some faint emotions seemed to flicker, but in the end, he merely nodded. Yes. Between them, there was clearly an undercurrent, something huge they were hiding together, and I had no idea. I stood there, lips pale, fingers wringing my skirt again and again, unable to hold back the sting rising to my eyes. Is that true? Of course it is. I'll be going now. Esther tossed the ring into her bag. After walking a few steps, she suddenly turned back, smiling brightly at me. Olivia. Happy holiday. Chapter 4. The cello music kept playing. I asked, who's the guy Esther had a crush on? No idea. That ring. I want one too. It was just a toy for a little girl. Do you really need one too? Can't you be a bit more mature? Martin sat across from me, glancing at my leg. Have you eaten? Do you want to take care of that wound first? I took a deep breath, forcing down the tremor in my voice. Martin, do you remember? Back in high school, when I fell during the relay race and hurt my leg, you didn't even ask anything. You just rushed to the infirmary and brought back medicine and bandages for me. His expression grew colder. Olivia, what are you trying to say? What was I trying to say? At 16, Martin was cold and distant by nature. Yet when I fell, he panicked so much his face turned pale. At 26, Martin was successful and admired. But now, standing before me, he felt like a stranger locked in opposition against me, digging my nails into my palm. I tried to keep my tone steady. It's a holiday. You're having dinner alone with another woman, and you gave her a diamond ring. Am I not allowed to ask about it? Another woman? Martin suddenly laughed, his eyes mocking as they fixed on me. When I first rejected her resume, who was it that begged me, calling out Esther again and again, insisting I take her as an intern? Today she closed a contract, and we came here to celebrate. Yet here you are again, starting trouble. Olivia, how did you become so hypocritical? My eyes widened in disbelief. Tears blurred my vision almost instantly. 8 years of love, 22 years of growing up together, every upheaval in life we had endured side by side. At his parents' funeral, Martin had clung to me, red-eyed, unable even to cry aloud. I stroked his hair, holding him as I wept with him, searching for words to comfort him. You still have me. You'll always have me. Later, when my parents divorced and my father schemed away most of our money, even my tuition. Olivia, just focus on school. I'll take care of the tuition. He had looked at me so seriously. I'll make sure you live a good life. We had walked through those hardest times together, finally reaching where we were now. I never imagined Martin would judge me like this. We've been together 8 years. You've never given me a ring, yet you gave one to her. Am I not allowed to ask? Martin, am I not allowed to ask? I wept as I demanded an answer, but he only looked at me with a calm, indifferent face. In the dim restaurant corner, beneath the yellow light, I covered my face, crying uncontrollably. When I lifted my eyes, Martin sat across from me, lowering his head to glance at his phone. In his eyes, shadows flickered darkly. When he noticed me looking, he quickly turned off the screen. The next moment, Martin's Adam's apple shifted as he swallowed. Then he abruptly stood, looking down at me from above. He said, "Something's come up with work. I have to go back. Since you're not hungry, just take a cab home yourself." Chapter 5. I limped into a taxi and went home. The wound on my knee had already mixed with the dirty rainwater into a sticky mess. As I hissed through clenched teeth while cleaning it, tears fell as well. Martin and we weren't always like this. When I was little, I was thin and small, often bullied. He would run to fight for me, outnumbered, blood covering his face, still throwing punches. Those kids were terrified and never dared to bother me again. In our junior year of college, when he started his business, I was by his side, running everywhere with him to talk to clients. Once, after drinking too much at a business dinner, I ended up hospitalized with acute gastritis. It was there that I first met Esther, a younger student in my department. The more time we spent together, the closer we grew, and eventually she became my best friend. At first, she couldn't stand Martin. "Olivia, you're giving your whole heart to your boyfriend, but is he really worth it? He's building a business and letting his girlfriend drink herself into the hospital to land clients? Pathetic. Martin hated Esther too. After I was discharged, he went to the notary office and transferred half of his company shares into my name. What right does she have to judge us? Stay away from her. I had never been strong-willed, always caught in the middle, trying to mediate, always in vain. I still remember once, I missed Martin's call because I was out doing nails with Esther. He drove through a downpour to find me, standing at the doorway, his voice cold. "Olivia, come here." Esther, blowing on her freshly painted nails, raised her brows with a smirk. "What is it this time? Sending Olivia to drink for your lousy company again?" Back then, they were sworn enemies, until Esther's senior year, when it was time for her internship. By then I was in my second year of grad school, and Martin's company had grown considerably. She wanted to join his company, clinging to my arm and swaying playfully. Martin's company is in a new industry. It's a perfect match for my major. "Olivia, I can even help you keep an eye on him. See if he flirts with any female employees." I laughed and patted her hand. "Impossible. We've been together 5 years now. Our relationship is solid." When I got home, I brought it up with Martin. He was reviewing contracts under the lamp. At my words, he let out a mocking laugh. "Esther, have her send her resume to HR." But because she had previously failed a core course, her resume was filtered out. She bit her straw, eyes rimmed red. I wasn't in a good state back then. Martin knows that. Why be so strict? I'm his girlfriend's best friend. For God's sake. That night, when I got home, I pestered Martin, acting spoiled. "Esther really wants to intern at your company. Martin, please help her out, okay? It's only 3 months anyway. Her family's well off. Maybe they already have plans for her. She probably won't stay after graduation." He gazed at me under the lamplight, eyes dark with an emotion I couldn't quite read. "Are you sure?" I nodded and threw my arms around him. "Martin, you're the best." But I had guessed wrong. Because of her excellent performance during her internship, Esther naturally stayed on after graduation, and she's still there now. Chapter 6. After tending to my wound, I tossed out the pile of bloody, dirty tissues. After some hesitation, I still called Martin. He didn't pick up. An hour later, he finally called back. When I answered, the line was silent, only the sound of his slightly hurried breathing echoed. I asked softly, "So, are we breaking up?" "Olivia, are you insane?" Martin's reaction was immediate, almost shouting at me. "Argue a little and you threaten me with breaking up? When did you become so unreasonable?" Tears spilled instantly. I thought of the past. In our first year of dating, we had fought once. I had glared at him with red eyes. "If you think I'm not good enough, you can just break up with me." He had panicked, holding me tightly. "I've never thought you weren't good enough. Olivia, we're just fighting." You can't throw around the word breakup. And yet now, it had come to this. Suddenly, I felt unbearably tired. Without a word, I hung up. When I woke, the rain outside had stopped. The house was empty and silent. Martin hadn't come home all night. Maybe because of being drenched last night. My throat burned like fire, and sharp pains tore through my stomach. I swallowed 2 pills and forced myself to head to school. Martin and I stayed in Cold War for 3 whole days. At noon in the cafeteria, Esther suddenly sent me a message. "Olivia, where are you? Let's have lunch together." Chapter 7. Did you have a fight with Martin? Olivia, don't be mad. He didn't mean it. Recently, one of the company's projects was leaked, and they lost an order because of it. He's been frustrated, so he took it out on you. In the cafeteria, Esther sat across from me. My eyes drifted downward to her slender, pale fingers, where the pink diamond ring sparkled. My throat felt blocked by something invisible. I swallowed with difficulty, speaking softly. "He never told me that." Esther's eyes curved as she smiled. "You've been so busy. He probably didn't want to bother you. But why did you know?" When our eyes met, it was as if she could guess what I was about to ask. She laughed. "Olivia, did you forget? I work at Martin's company. Of course I'd know what he knows." She laughed again, lowering her head to glance at the lit-up screen of her phone. Looks like you're done eating. Let's head out. Outside the cafeteria's southwest gate, a familiar black Porsche was parked. My steps froze as I watched Martin step out of the car, expression cool, eyes settling in our direction. His gaze slid past Esther's bright smile and landed on me. Esther's tone was light. Martin, I brought Olivia out. I've got something else to do, so I'll leave first. Martin frowned. Where are you going? Esther stopped and turned, narrowing her eyes with a playful smile. The guy who rejected me the other day suddenly said he wanted to talk again. I'm going to see him now. With that, she left without looking back. Martin pressed his lips together, his expression darkening. When I got into the car, I could still feel the gloom radiating from him. Chapter 8. Are you still angry? When I asked, Martin turned his head, as if suddenly snapping back to himself. No, he spoke indifferently, then started the engine. The car filled with a strange silence. My eyes wandered unconsciously until they froze on something in the corner. It was a glittering object, catching the sunlight streaming through the window. I picked it up. It was a Mayumi rhinestone hair clip, the one Esther often wore. A flood of emotions surged through me, like thick liquid wrapping around my heart. The suffocating weight made me clench my palm around the clip, the sharp edges digging into my skin. I took 2 deep breaths, trying to make my voice sound calm. Did Esther sit in your car? Martin answered lightly. She said she was going to find you, so I gave her a ride. Then why the passenger seat? And under what circumstances would she lose a hair clip in the corner, without even noticing when she left? My voice trembled. Martin, what now? He turned his head slightly, impatience obvious in his tone. Do you know the guy Esther says she likes? Does he really exist? At that moment, the light turned red. Martin slammed on the brakes. He turned to me, eyes sharp. Olivia, are you being paranoid again? His tone was cold. Aren't you two supposed to be best friends? If you're so suspicious, why not just ask her? Can't I ask you? My eyes reddened. Martin, you used her so-called failed confession as the reason to give her a ring. Am I wrong to ask you about it? After all this, isn't it just jewelry you want? When the light turned green, Martin restarted the car and switched course to the nearest mall. He strode ahead, gripping my wrist tightly, dragging me into a jewelry store. Since you're so unbalanced, pick one yourself. Bright lights illuminated the sparkling gems and the glass counters. Because of Martin's obvious cold sarcasm, the sales clerks hesitated, staying back, too cautious to approach. Suddenly, exhaustion and helplessness filled me to the brim. Before this, I had imagined countless times what it would be like, Martin and I, here together, choosing wedding rings. Back in my first year of college, when I worked part-time, I had passed by this very place. We had leaned close, looking down at the price tags together. After much hesitation, we bought the cheapest pair of silver rings. Martin had held my hand tightly, his voice hoarse. Olivia, when life gets better, I'll buy you the most expensive ring in this store. I had smiled, squeezing his hand in return, giving it a little shake. But I don't even like expensive things. As long as it's from you, it doesn't matter what it is. Chapter 9. The second week, Martin went to another city to negotiate a contract. That morning, I saw Esther's new post on WeChat. It was a picture of distant clouds outside an airplane window, with my senior on a business trip. Martin, who hadn't spoken a single word to me for 3 days, gave her a like. He even commented, "Crazy girl." Esther replied to him, "It's the perfect match with someone mature and steady." Before I could even ask, she came to explain to me on her own. Olivia, don't overthink. I posted it on purpose, just to provoke the guy I like. He keeps stringing me along. You and Martin have known each other for more than 20 years. And the two of us are also best friends. Do you really think I'd deliberately come between you? At this point, she paused, and her tone even carried a faint smile. About last time, I already helped you teach him a lesson. Martin also promised me that once this contract is signed, he'll propose to you when he comes back. The call ended. I stood in the laboratory, utterly at a loss, until a senior called out from the front. Olivia, the results of the school's physical exam have come out. The hospital corridor bustled with people, the heavy smell of disinfectant lingering in the air. The thin stack of papers in my hand seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds. Inside the consultation room just now, the doctor had spoken with a grave expression. Olivia, the tumor in your stomach needs to be surgically removed. After removal, we'll run a pathology test to determine whether it's benign or malignant. My throat suddenly tightened. What if it's malignant? If it is, then you and your family should prepare for chemotherapy. Even if Martin and I were in a Cold War, my first instinct was still to call him. Because 3 years ago, after my mom died of cancer, he became the only family I had left. With trembling fingers, I dialed his number, but all I heard was the endless, monotonous ring. No one answered. The sudden fear of the unknown consumed me whole, choking back tears. I could barely force out complete words. Martin, please, pick up the phone. Almost without thinking, I clicked into Esther's post. Last night, she had posted a new update. Through my tear-blurred vision, I saw Esther in a beautiful red slip dress, leaning by a floor-to-ceiling window. Her cheeks were flushed, a glass of wine raised in her hand. She was clinking glasses with the person opposite her. To us, and the person sitting across from her, the faint reflection in the glass revealed the bathrobe on his body, and on his wrist, the red string talisman I had once climbed 30,000 temple steps to pray for. That was Martin. Chapter 10. It felt like the string of emotions inside me snapped all at once. Before I knew it, I was already in a car headed for the airport. I couldn't wait another second. I needed to find Martin and ask him face to face. On a weekday, the airport hall wasn't too crowded. A sudden cramp twisted in my stomach, and clutching my ticket, I staggered into the restroom. Since I hadn't eaten anything that morning, I knelt over the toilet, dry heaving for ages, but nothing came out. Leaning against the partition wall, I tried to catch my breath. Not far away, a voice I knew all too well suddenly rang out. Take it easy. The door isn't even locked. It was. Esther, wasn't it you who wanted the thrill, insisting on doing it here? Martin's voice carried a suppressed hunger. If it hurts, bear with it. Don't expect me to go easy. Esther let out a laugh. So ruthless. Do you treat Olivia the same way? Oh, right. I think she even called earlier. Are you really not going to answer? Shut up. Martin seemed to bite back a groan, his voice muffled. Don't say her name at a time like this. That's true. You were the one who told me, no matter how good a dish is, eating it for over 20 years gets boring. Esther giggled. Tell me, if Olivia knew that last time you used the contract as an excuse to drive over in the pouring rain just to sleep with me, how heartbroken would she be? It felt like all the blood in my body froze in an instant. The voices were so close, yet they sounded as if they came from a faraway place, drifting through a haze, echoing in my ears. I don't know how long it took before I regained enough strength to move, push open the door of the innermost stall. What I saw was absurd, filthy, unbearable. My stomach churned violently, pain ripping through me as I opened my mouth. My voice mechanical. Martin. The two people inside froze instantly, turning their heads to look at me. Chapter 11. I watched Martin's face go suddenly ashen, and an absurd, overwhelming sensation rose up in me. The dull ache in my stomach returned with a vengeance, this time far worse, intolerable. I clutched my stomach and bent over, probably because my expression looked so pained. Martin, his clothes still disheveled, came over to support me. Don't touch me. I snapped upright and slapped him. I hit him with all my strength. His face turned aside and quickly swelled red. Gross. Martin, you're disgusting. Both of you are disgusting. My eyes stung. Tears blurred my vision. I wanted to slap him again, but a spasm of pain in my stomach took all my strength away. Don't be so angry, Olivia. Esther smoothed her clothes and stepped out from behind him with calm composure. She gave me a faint smile. Didn't you say we're best friends and you'd share everything with me? So it's only natural that I share your boyfriend, right? The ringing in my ears grew louder. Fractured fragments of the past flashed through my mind. That rainy evening, through the window, Martin put the ring on Esther's finger. When I was crying and gasping for breath, he was on the other side, reading her flirtatious messages. Esther's red slip dress, the clinking wine glasses, the rhinestone hair clip she deliberately left on Martin's passenger seat, the enormous secret they had kept together. At first they were at each other's throats. Esther called him by his name. Later she started calling him Senior Martin. I trembled and stared at them. So there was never a failed confession, or a person Esther liked. All along, the two of you were tangled up in this. Disgusting, both of you. Really. A fierce nausea collided with the churning pain in my stomach. Everything went black, and I lost consciousness. Chapter 12. I woke up in the hospital. Esther was nowhere to be seen. Only Martin sat at the bedside, looking at me with a grave expression. He was holding that exam report in his hand. Why didn't you tell me? Martin's face was frighteningly pale. Olivia, you were sick. Why didn't you call me back? I looked at him with a blank expression. When did it start? Olivia, the doctor said you can't. I'm asking you, when did you and Esther start? I lost control and grabbed the glass ashtray from the bedside, swinging it hard at Martin. He didn't dodge. The ashtray struck his temple. In an instant, a bright, shocking red welled up. Martin closed his eyes for a moment and spoke hoarsely. It was 2 years ago. Before she started interning at the company, Esther came to me asking for an internship at my company. I refused her at first, and I said things that were harsh, you know. Olivia, I've never gotten along with her, but after I scolded her that day, she didn't fight back. She cried. That night she was drunk and ran to the company parking lot and stopped my car, asking me if I could never stand her. Olivia. At first I pushed her away. I even filtered out her resume, trying to cut off any possibility, but you insisted on hiring her into the company. How absurd. I curled my lips in scorn. So you cheated. You and my best friend hid it from me and betrayed me. And now you blame me? That's not what I meant. I stared straight at him. In the reflection of Martin's pupils I saw what I looked like now. My eyes rimmed red, as if about to spill blood. Olivia, believe me, it was a momentary lapse. I never intended to marry her. We've been together so many years. He faltered there and could not continue. I covered my face, laughing and crying at once. So you remember we've been together so many years. From the moment we met at 4 years old, to his nervous confession at 18, to now at 26. 22 years in total, all the crucial moments in life. The times we were most alone and helpless, we were each other's company. He was like a part of my body, seamlessly grown into my life. Peel him away a little and blood gushes out. Even though signs had long existed, I refused to believe he would betray me, because what I had with Martin was more than just lovers. You're still lying to me, Martin. Even now, you're trying to lie. I looked up at him. I don't believe you didn't know. I've been waiting for you to propose. There was never any so-called guy who rejected Esther. That never existed. You know exactly what you were thinking when you gave her the ring. You cheated. Your heart drifted away. And now you tell me you never intended to marry her. Martin, why should I believe you? He stood stiffly in the hospital room. The brightness in his eyes dimmed inch by inch. After a long while, with a hoarse voice he said, whether you believe me or not, I really never wanted to break up with you. Olivia. Chapter 13. Martin dropped everything at the company and came to the hospital whenever he had a spare moment. But on the morning of my surgery he didn't show up. He only arrived, breathless and belated, after the anesthesia wore off, standing at the ward door, gasping, I'm sorry, Olivia. I'm late. Soon after, I scrolled through WeChat and saw Esther's update. She was lying on a messy hotel bed, smiling at the camera and making a provocative gesture. I knew she posted it on purpose for me to see. That night, the moon was bright and the stars few. I lay in my hospital bed, the smell of disinfectant heavy in the air, unable to fall asleep. Whenever I closed my eyes, the 18-year-old Martin appeared before me. He wore a freshly washed white shirt. Standing beneath the wisteria, his hands were clasped behind his back, nervously holding a bunch of white roses. He looked at me in the summer breeze, the boy's face openly full of love. Olivia, the college entrance exams are over, date me. I'll go with you to a city, to a university, for the decades after this. We'll never part. We were so young then. Martin's eyes shone like the stars of the whole world. I took the roses, nodded frantically, and leaned in to kiss him. 18-year-old Martin was awkward and nervous. In his fluster he bit my lip. A flush spread from his ear to his cheek. He looked at me and whispered, "Olivia, I'll practice and get better." But when I opened my eyes, it was all a bubble of yesterday. Only 27-year-old Martin stood in front of me now. His expression drained of color. "Olivia, forgive me this once." I pushed him off the bed with a blank face. Outside, the sky was fully bright. The doctor called me to the consultation room. Martin wanted to come in, but a nurse stopped him at the door. "What is your relation to the patient?" "Family." I spun around sharply. "He isn't." Martin's fingers froze in midair and trembled. All the years we had walked together couldn't, without concrete proof, be used to certify that he was now the most important person in my life. I gave him a cold glance, then turned and walked into the consultation room. The door closed behind me. The doctor's expression was grave. "Olivia, your pathology results are in." Chapter 14. A long, long time ago, when Martin and I were still in middle school, on my way home from school riding my bike, I fell and hurt my leg. We were in a Cold War then, but when he picked me up and rushed me to the hospital, he nearly cried. "Olivia, it's all my fault. Please don't be hurt now." I walked out and handed him the pathology report. "The doctor says my results aren't benign." "What does that mean?" I let out a bitter laugh. "It means I'll be dead soon, and then you can be with Esther openly." "Happy?" He froze in place, unable to move for a long time. After a while he reached out, trying to hold me. "No, Olivia, we can get treatment." Before he could finish, in the bustling hospital corridor, I suddenly raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. "You know what the doctor said? My chronic stomach problems are tied to past episodes of excessive drinking leading to gastric bleeding and recurring gastritis." Martin stared at me blankly. I thought he must remember. At that time, I had been pushing myself to raise my GPA, giving everything I had. My digestive system had always been fragile. Because my stomach kept acting up, I'd been hospitalized twice for treatment. Even so, I still went with him to meet clients. The investors across the table targeted him for being young and deliberately made things difficult, forcing him to drink. I snatched the bottle away and downed it in one gulp, then threw up in the restroom. You still have to haggle over the contract. If you drink until you're drunk and not clear-headed, a lot can go wrong. Back then, Martin held me with red-rimmed eyes. He promised to give me the best life. All lies. All of it lies. Fear and rage burned hotter and hotter in me. Even my blood seemed like magma, boiling and rampaging. I gasped for air, raised my hand again, and slapped him once more. I was about to strike again, but Martin gripped my wrist. Those eyes that had once been distant were now full of a clear, aching pain. He murmured, "You'll be okay. Olivia, you'll get better. We'll find a way for chemo and surgery. Don't be afraid." He pulled me into his arms. I dropped my lashes and let go of everything, as if I'd finally reached my limit. I buried my face in his chest and cried aloud. Chapter 15. When Esther came to the hospital, it was already evening. She looked at the 4-needle in the back of my hand. After a moment of silence, she finally spoke. "Olivia, you've been with him for 8 years, and he's never thought about proposing to you. Didn't that ever make you wonder?" I sat on the bed, head tilted back, expressionless as I looked at her. "Martin hasn't loved you for a long time. The only reason he hasn't broken up is because of years of habit. Even yesterday morning, I just cried a little over the phone, and he rushed to find me without hesitation. You saw the photos too. We spent the whole morning together." I let out a laugh. To talk about something that disgusting so openly, it's almost impressive. Her face finally darkened, her expression ugly. "Olivia, don't look at me with that expression. I've never done anything to betray you. You and he aren't even married. If he and I gave in to passion, morally we're not at fault." "Esther, who told you to come here?" Martin suddenly cut her off. He had just come back from getting me food, holding my pink teddy bear lunchbox in his hands. Esther looked up at him. "What's wrong, Senior? My best friend is sick in the hospital. Am I not allowed to visit her?" I watched Martin set down the lunchbox and then roughly drag her outside, through the half-closed hospital door. Their voices came through clearly. "Martin, you turn your back on me the moment you get out of bed?" Martin's voice was low, cold, merciless. "I already told you, we're finished. What happened between us was nothing but an impulse. Now it's time to set things back on track. In what way am I worse than Olivia? Whether it's family background, looks, or personality, I can give you far more than she ever could. Martin cut her off with contempt. And you think you're worthy of being compared to her? Silence followed. After a moment, I heard Esther's muffled sobs outside. Chapter 16. The next morning, Martin drove me to a jewelry store. The clerk brought over an enormous diamond ring and placed it before me. Martin held my hand, looking at me seriously. Olivia, let's get married. The clerk smiled and added, Miss, your boyfriend is so thoughtful. This is our most expensive design, one of a kind. One of a kind. How laughable. The lights were bright, the weather clear. Everything before me looked exactly like the countless times I had imagined. But staring at that ring only reminded me of that afternoon. After Esther left, he had dragged me into a jewelry store with a cold face and mocked me harshly. Isn't this what you wanted? Jewelry? Pick it yourself. Back then, the curious and pitying gazes of strangers pierced my heart like 1,000 arrows. The pain in my stomach surged again. I bent over, curling up tight. Martin's expression immediately changed. He reached to support me, but I shoved him away viciously. My nails scraped across his cheek, leaving a long red mark. With my fingers white against the glass counter, I straightened up, my voice sharp. Married? You just regret signing half the company shares under my name. Now that you think I won't live long, you want to take them back legally, right? Martin looked at me with heartbreak. For an instant, I almost saw tears in his eyes. His voice trembled. Olivia, don't think of me that way. I gasped, chest heaving, glaring at him. After all the lies, why would I believe you again? Even the day of my surgery, you were in Esther's bed. My voice caught. I couldn't go on. 22 years couldn't just vanish, even though I'd resolved in my heart. Whenever I thought of it, the pain was like being flayed alive. Martin closed his eyes. I'll prove it to you. The nurse making rounds later told me Martin didn't sleep that night. He sat in the smoking area at the corner of the hallway, finishing a whole pack of cigarettes. The next day, he contacted a lawyer and drafted an agreement. It stated that if anything happened to him, all his assets would go to me. Martin showed me the contract, leaning close against my cheek. Olivia, I truly regret everything. From the very start, I built this company for our future. I don't even know how things grew bigger and I lost myself along the way. But I really love you. His breath was hot and familiar yet foreign as it brushed my cheek. I forced down my revulsion and glanced over the terms of the contract. Once I confirmed its legality, my heart eased just slightly. Martin. I whispered his name. Do you really think we can go back? His arm tightened suddenly around my waist. Yes. I've made things clear with Esther. From now on, she won't be in the company anymore. She won't appear before you again. Not enough. I closed my eyes and said nothing more. Chapter 17. After arranging a leave of absence from school, I was admitted to the hospital for regular chemotherapy. Because of the torment of illness, in less than a month I had grown alarmingly thin. My already slender wrists looked even more frail and frightening. Whenever he wasn't busy with the company, Martin stayed in the hospital room with me, refusing to leave my side. Esther really hadn't shown up at his company again, but that afternoon, she came to my hospital room once more. Her face was pale, her expression unbearably ugly. I wasn't surprised at all. After all, once I had gathered evidence of what she had done, along with the photos and chat screenshots from Martin's phone, and sent them to the workplace where her parents held positions and to our old school's alumni group, I already guessed she would come to me. Esther's parents both worked in the system, their reputations towering. Worse, her father was at a crucial stage of his promotion. This scandal was like handing his rivals a sharp blade. As for the alumni group, word had already spread. All our old classmates knew Esther and I had been best friends. Didn't she always claim she couldn't stand Martin? Kept urging Olivia to break up? So it was just to climb up herself. Back then, she couldn't find an internship and insisted on entering Martin's company, and Olivia was the one who arranged it. Stealing your best friend's boyfriend, isn't that disgusting? I heard Olivia is sick. I skimmed through the group chat at lightning speed, then shut off my phone and looked at the furious Esther in front of me. Brave enough to do it. but not brave enough to take responsibility? I mimicked her old smile, only now, sick and skeletal. My smile no longer looked pretty. Don't worry, this is only the beginning. Esther's face turned ashen. She couldn't say a single word. After she left, that night, Martin came. His voice was hoarse. These past days, when you kept asking for my phone to look things up, was it just to find those photos and videos? If I hadn't looked, I wouldn't have known. You two are truly vile, doing things like that and still filming it. Martin's Adam's apple bobbed sharply. He stepped forward and hugged me. Stop talking, Olivia. I said coldly, if you could do it, why can't I say it? You told me you forgave me. His eyelashes trembled violently, his expression overflowing with pain. Forgiving, does that mean the past can be erased as if it never happened? I always think back on these 22 years, from when we could barely speak, to now, when we've become complete strangers. Martin, because I was certain I loved you. I chose to forgive you no matter what you did to hurt me. And how did you respond to me? You two, one was my boyfriend, the other my best friend. So many times you shamelessly flirted right in front of me. Was that thrilling? Or was it just that in your eyes I was truly that stupid, that slow? So you were sure I'd never discover your affair? Martin, you're disgusting, absolutely vile, agitated. The pain in my stomach surged again. I clutched the bed's edge, gasping violently for breath. A nurse came in and knocked, preparing to set up my four. I closed my eyes. Get out. I don't want to see you right now. Chapter 18. Chemotherapy left my body weaker day by day. Perhaps standing at the brink of life and death finally made him remember the past he once thought he could ignore. The way he looked at me grew more tender with each passing day. He began drinking, and when drunk, he would stumble to my bedside, clutch my hand, and apologize. Forgive me, Olivia. When you get better, we'll get married. Let the past stay in the past, all right? In the face of life and death, what could possibly be unforgivable? I lay in bed, silent. I could never forget, it was a drizzly autumn afternoon, when Martin came to see me in the hospital. He suddenly said he had heard about an expert with great experience in treating cancer. Though already retired, I'll go to the neighboring city and invite him to come treat you. But the next time I heard news of him was through a call from the police. Is this mess, Olivia? Because he grabbed the steering wheel. Your boyfriend Martin was in a car accident on the highway. He died on the spot. There was also a pregnant woman at the scene, sent to the hospital for emergency treatment. It was as if countless bubbles rose to my ears, muffled beneath a roaring from afar. I looked down at my phone. On the screen were my messages with Martin's rival company, discussing how to sell off my half of the shares, how to make Martin, now so successful, feel the same searing pain as I did. But before I could act, the news of his death came. The pregnant woman with him was Esther. Even until that day, they had never fully cut ties. At the police station, I received Martin's belongings, a blood-stained phone. When I turned it on, I saw the new chat messages between him and Esther, unsent, undeleted. Even with their twisted mix of love and hate, they were still entangled. There was never any retired cancer specialist. It was all lies. All of it, lies. Chapter 19. Miraculously, after several rounds of chemotherapy and one more surgery, my body began to recover, and that agreement Martin had only drafted to ease my mind by a twist of fate. After his death, it made me the inheritor of all his assets. By the time I fully recovered and was discharged, it was already the following autumn. Withered yellow leaves swirled and drifted down before me. One of them happened to land in my palm. I held it, noticing a trace of green at its stem, life sprouting from the edge of despair. It suddenly reminded me of Martin, already gone, long, long ago, when we were still young. It was a late autumn day like this one. After school, we were playing and joking around, when he suddenly lifted his hand. Because I had grown up under my father's abuse, I instinctively flinched. A flicker of pain flashed in Martin's eyes. He lowered his hand and pulled me into an embrace. Olivia, I will never hurt you. In the end, just another lie. Words spoken in love only hold meaning while that love lasts. Story 2. My parents couldn't afford to send me to college, so I decided to apply for a student loan. When my brother found out, he offered to support me. Over the 4 years of college, I borrowed a total of 40,000 yuan from him. After graduating, he refused to let me repay the money but demanded that I cover his family's expenses instead. From my sister-in-law's clothes and bags to buying a house, a car, and raising my nephew, the cost ran into hundreds of thousands. And each time I tried to refuse, my sister-in-law would scold me for being ungrateful. Later, because of their endless demands, I worked overtime day and night, eventually collapsing at my workstation. It was only after my death that I found out my parents hadn't been able to afford my tuition because they had given all their savings to my brother and sister-in-law. The so-called support was merely a way to make me learn gratitude. After being reborn, I returned to the time right before starting college. Chapter 01. The day I took the student loan application to my dad for his signature. My brother Paul came to me voluntarily. Dad is getting on in years, and you're still asking him to guarantee a loan for you. As his children, we shouldn't be so ungrateful. Let me pay for your college. In my past life, hearing those words moved me to tears. I thought he was the best brother in the world and silently vowed to work and study hard to pay him back as soon as possible. Later, with the help of scholarships, part-time jobs, and some support from my brother, I finally made it through college. After graduating, I calculated the money I borrowed from him. It came to 40,000 yuan. I repaid him with double the interest rate of a commercial loan. But he got angry. We're family. Why talk about repayment? If you know how to be grateful, just help out the family more in the future. And so, from the start of my career, my sister-in-law would send me links every few days: clothes, jewelry, makeup, baby formula, diapers, utility bills, all for me to pay. Remembering my brother's kindness, I never complained, spending over 100,000 yuan. Later, when they bought a house in a good school district, they borrowed 200,000 from me, and another 100,000 to buy a new car. They never mentioned paying it back. 10 years after graduation, I was still living in a partitioned room from a sublandlord, eating 10 yuan takeout. The guys who pursued me would leave once they saw my situation. Later, when my nephew needed to attend a private school, my sister-in-law asked me for money again. I really couldn't afford it and suggested she consider a public school instead. She cursed at me. Back when you were going to college, we were struggling too. Did your brother ever say he couldn't afford it? And now, with just one, I can't afford it. You want to take away my son's right to a quality education? If not for your brother, you'd be working in a factory screwing bolts right now. Without your brother, there'd be no you today. Every cent you make now is because of him. My mom also pressured me. Your brother bore your sister-in-law's anger to support you back then. You mustn't be ungrateful. I had no choice but to work during the day and take on part-time jobs at night, working 2 jobs simultaneously. Eventually, after countless sleepless nights, I collapsed at my workstation. The insurance purchased by the company paid over 1 million yuan. My nephew successfully got into a private school. My brother and sister-in-law bought a new car, and their family lived a prosperous life. My mom and dad, chatting idly, had 3 parts regret and 7 parts comfort. Good thing we let Paul pay Anna's tuition back then. Otherwise, how could the siblings be so close? Over the years, he's bought 3 houses. If his sister hadn't helped, the pressure would have been much greater. Just a pity our daughter wasn't lucky and left us early. Only then did I learn that the year I went to college, the 700,000 yuan my parents had saved was all given to my brother and sister-in-law to invest in their shop. On top of that, my dad sent them 6,000 yuan each month to support the couple. The so-called support had been a decision made by the whole family, all to foster sibling relationships, so that after graduating, I would devote myself to helping the family. These were the family members who loved me. Chapter 02. Anna, you have to remember that your brother took on debt to pay for your college. You must repay this kindness properly in the future. My mom's voice pulled me back to the present. I was dazed for a moment before quickly regaining my clarity. I grabbed the application form and said to Paul, "Brother, you're right. Dad is getting older. We shouldn't make him worry about taking out a loan for me anymore. So I've decided to apply for a campus loan, which doesn't need a guarantor. Don't worry about it. What they didn't know was that there were two types of student loans. One was a provincial student loan, and the other was a campus loan. The former needed a parent's signature, while the latter didn't. In my past life, I was fooled by the illusion of family love, indulging in their lies. I thought my brother was really looking out for me and obediently gave up on the loan. But later, whenever I needed money, I had to deal with my sister-in-law's attitude, and getting any help was a constant struggle. The emotional debt, however, was one I had to repay for my entire life. Paul's face changed. How can that be right? Mom and Dad are still here, and even if they weren't, there's me, your brother, letting you take out a loan for college. What would people say? I scoffed inwardly. So that was the reason as well. Not only was it convenient for their future demands on me, but they could also boast to others that they had supported their sister. They got both the reputation and the benefits. Brother, I know you mean well for me, and that's why I can't let myself be a burden to you. Don't worry. I'll always remember your intentions, and I'll make sure all our relatives know that I have a good brother. With that, I gathered my things and left. In this life, I wanted to see, without this so-called kindness, who would truly lose out. Chapter 03. After half a month into the new school year, the loan was successfully approved. The class president learned about my situation and asked if I wanted to apply for financial aid. I smiled bitterly. We have a car and a house, and my parents' income isn't low, so there's no way I qualify as a student in poverty. In well-off families, it's often the daughters that live like they're poor, such is the custom around here. Fortunately, with 10 years of experience as a coder in my previous life, I at least have a marketable skill. During college, I started taking freelance coding jobs online. Depending on the project size, I could make anywhere from a few hundred to a few thousand yuan. Together with scholarships, I was living pretty decently. As expected, my parents soon started probing, asking how much I was making with my side jobs and how much I had saved. Occasionally, they'd send me pictures of my father working at a construction site, sweating under the blazing sun. His face was flushed red, eating steamed buns with pickled radishes. Your sister-in-law is about to give birth, and the whole family is under a lot of pressure right now. You should try to be more frugal. Don't spend money carelessly when you have it. In my past life, every time I saw how hard they worked, my heart would twist with guilt. It felt like every cent I spent in school was a crime. But now, I feel nothing. I moved my fingers and sent them a picture of plain white rice with the free soup from the cafeteria. A university student working part-time is just doing grunt work. How much could they really earn? After a whole day of handing out flyers under the sun, I only made 80 yuan, and that has to last a week. I can't even afford cabbage, just the free soup from the cafeteria. Well, what can I say? I'm just a girl carrying her debts on her back. Sure enough, there was silence on the other end of WeChat. After a long while, a message finally came. Still, take care of yourself. Eat properly when you need to. I smiled without replying. There was never a lack of verbal care and advice, but the question of where the money should come from was always avoided. Chapter 04. At the end of the year, I received a congratulatory call from home. Anna, your sister-in-law just had a baby boy. You're an aunt now. I could feel my mom's excitement even through the phone line. She wanted me to buy some jewelry as a welcome gift for the baby. In my past life, I gritted my teeth and bought a golden lock using my credit card, and ended up eating instant noodles for an entire month because of it. Later, when I went home, I overheard my sister-in-law complaining about how light it was. This is what she dares to give? I smiled. Mom, I'm still a student myself. What do you expect me to give? She started playing the emotional card. You're the child's aunt. You can't give nothing at all. It doesn't matter if it's a lot or a little. It's the thought that counts. Your brother isn't asking much of you. All right. Fine. I ordered a silver-plated lock for 9 yuan, shipping included. From the web, front side engraved with heart, back side with intention. Don't ask if you do. It's simply heartfelt intention. When my mom came to scold me, I put on an innocent face. Didn't you say it had to be a heartfelt intention? Why are you blaming me now that it's exactly that? She was so angry that she couldn't speak. Chapter 05. From then on, I relied on coding and could basically support myself. By the second year, I didn't need loans anymore, and I had more financial freedom. I signed up for the school's exchange program and went to Hong Kong for a study tour. I also participated in competitions, winning an award in Beijing. My entire university experience was extremely fulfilling. By the time I graduated, with all my project experience, I received an offer from a foreign company in Shanghai, and that year, my sister-in-law got pregnant with her second child. As expected, greetings from home arrived right on schedule. When they heard that I had secured a job in Shanghai, Paul started lecturing me. A girl like you shouldn't be going so far away. Mom and Dad are worried. Find a job closer to home. I replied casually, it's Shanghai, not Mumbai. What's there to worry about? If we're talking about safety, our hometown can't compare to a big city. He hesitated for a moment. The typing indicator on WeChat appeared and disappeared. After a while, he finally replied, my wife is pregnant, and both Mom and Dad have to work. Taking care of one child is hard enough as it is. Get a job closer to home. Come back often to visit. The family can take care of you. The stream of words transformed into an abacus, each bead bouncing off the screen, smacking me in the face. In my past life, my job wasn't far from home. I came back almost every weekend, shopping, cooking, taking care of the kids, accompanying my sister-in-law to her prenatal checkups. I always had to bring gifts. Whenever I went back empty-handed, her expression would turn sour. Each trip cost me hundreds. Eventually, I was just too exhausted and didn't want to go back anymore. Then came the usual complaints, a white-eyed wolf who doesn't appreciate kindness. She won't even come home. So-called being cared for was nothing but me being drained dry. I sneered and sent back a heartfelt voice message. Brother, I know you're just concerned for me, but I've grown up now, and I have the ability to live independently. How could I keep depending on Mom and Dad? Don't worry, I'll take care of myself out there. As for my nephew, I can always video call if I want to see him. Before he could respond, I quickly sent another message. All right, gotta go to work. Acting clueless was the strategy here. Chapter 06. Without my help, my sister-in-law's second pregnancy was a complete mess. She complained about no one accompanying her to checkups, severe morning sickness that made her unable to eat, and the first child crying, disrupting her rest. There were constant arguments between them. To ensure her son's family harmony, my mom quit her job to take care of them, but Paul's store still wasn't profitable, which left only my dad's income to support the whole family. Chapter 07. Shortly after I started working, my mom began inquiring about how much I earned, how much was the rent, and how much did I spend on food. I activated my vague answer mode. It's okay. Oh, pretty expensive. Well, hard to say. Unable to get any concrete answers. After much hesitation, she finally came out with her real intention. She wanted to manage my salary. Mom isn't asking for your money. It's just that young people like you spend recklessly and can't save anything. I'm doing it for your own good. To save for your dowry. Your brother handed over his salary to the family for safekeeping before he got married too. She rambled on, acting like she had my best interests at heart. I didn't refuse, but instead, I perked up and said, sure, Mom, you can manage my salary card. Oh, and could you help me manage my credit balance too? I owe 9,000 yuan. Almost overdue. Help me pay it off, and then you can deduct it from my salary over the next few months. Her voice froze. Why do you owe so much? What can I do? Mom? Other kids have their parents' support right after graduation. I have to rely on myself for everything. Rent, utilities, none of that comes cheap. All right. She cut me off. I've always told you to save, but you never listen. Good at spending, not so much at earning. Figure it out yourself. Then, all that was left was the beeping sound of a hung-up call. Oh well, hurts the feelings a bit. I idly tapped the screen. Chapter 08. This time around, without their endless demands, life was so much easier. The job at the foreign company was 9 to 5, with weekends off. The salary and benefits were quite generous. I rented a small studio near the company, wore cute dresses, got my hair beautifully curled, and went out for hot pot, barbecue, and skewers with friends. After dinner, walking by the Huangpu River, watching the moon slowly rise over the water, the Oriental Pearl Tower shining among the stars, I spread my arms wide open to the wind, feeling, for the first time, the beauty of the world and that life was worth living. I thought of my past life after starting work, where I couldn't spend even a penny without splitting it in two. In the office, I'd never dare lift my head to order milk tea. Colleagues would invite me to dinner, and though I really wanted to go, I was too broke, so I had to refuse. Seeing people my age dressed fashionably and elegantly, I could only search online for cheap knockoffs. Sometimes, indulging in a trendy dessert once would leave me feeling guilty for a long time. Even though it was money I earned myself, spending it on myself came with endless guilt. Looking back now, day after day of conditioning had embedded in my subconscious the feeling that I wasn't worthy. How ridiculous. Chapter 09. The next time I saw my family was during the New Year gathering with relatives. In the few years I hadn't seen them, my dad had lost most of his hair, and my mom had developed quite a few more gray hairs. They both looked much older. It seemed they hadn't lacked for things to worry about. Paul was busy greeting the guests. My sister-in-law Julia sat on the sofa browsing her phone. She was 6 months pregnant and being treated as very precious. The entire morning, she bossed my mom around, asking her to throw away the trash, calling for a towel, scolding her for making the formula either too cold or too hot. My mom was holding her grandson while also attending to her daughter-in-law, running around endlessly. Chapter 10. At the banquet, the elders praised my brother for being capable, for having helped a sister graduate from a prestigious university, and they didn't forget to advise me. Anna, you have your brother to thank for being able to attend college. Now that you've graduated, you need to repay your brother and sister-in-law properly. Yes, exactly. One should never forget where they come from. Ungrateful people never get far. You're an aunt now. Treat your nephew and niece as if they were your own. Only then can you truly repay the love your brother has shown you. All my aunts and great-aunts chimed in, urging me one after the other. Just like in my previous life, everyone believed that he had funded my college education. Paul, with a calm face and smiling broadly, didn't deny it. I understood everything perfectly. Although, in this life, I hadn't owed him a penny. That didn't stop people from taking credit where none was due. In the years I had been away, I had no idea what kind of stories they had bragged about in front of others. I took a sip of tea, neither hurried nor angry, and said, I went to college on my own student loan. I didn't spend a penny from my brother. The smiles of my relatives froze, and the atmosphere turned awkward in an instant. Paul hurriedly said, Oh, come on. We're family, no need to talk about debts. Mom and dad were in poor health. My sister needed to go to school. As her older brother, it was only right for me to share the burden. Julia added sarcastically, Yes, although we did our best. Students these days are really high maintenance, 3,000 or 4,000 yuan a month. Just like that, our family, unfortunately, is limited in resources. We couldn't match others. And we couldn't meet my sister-in-law's high expectations. Between the lines, they made it sound like they really had supported me. They also labeled me as vain, competitive, and ungrateful. Quite the storytelling skills. Everyone started advising me again. Your brother and sister-in-law are ordinary people. They have their own lives to live. Supporting you through college wasn't easy. One must learn to be content. I smiled. I pulled up the student loan records on my phone and cast them to the TV screen. Looks like everyone misunderstood. My brother did offer to help, but I didn't want to bother him. I managed through college on my own. The relatives looked up at the screen, their expressions stunned. I swiped my phone again, projecting an application for financial aid. Actually, I even applied for a poverty grant back then. Unfortunately, the family's financial situation didn't meet the requirements. I put on a regretful and disappointed expression. I explained it already, even though my parents earned quite a bit. My brother and sister-in-law were investing in a shop and having a second child. It was tough for them, but my teachers and classmates just didn't understand. By this point, anyone who understood had gotten the message. The relatives exchanged glances, and their expressions toward Paul and Julia shifted subtly. Paul's smile slowly faded from his face, and Julia's expression turned dark. My dad quickly stood up to smooth things over. All right. It's the new year. Do we really need to argue over such trivial matters? Hurry and turn off the screen. Let's eat. Ha. After playing dead for so long, finally showing some life. Ha. Chapter 11. After the meal, the relatives had left. The whole family looked upset. My mom pulled me over to sit on the sofa. Anna, how could you embarrass your brother like that in front of others? I acted clueless. Wasn't everyone here family? What's wrong with saying it? She was angry. Even if they are relatives, you should know what to say and what not to say. I still had an innocent look on my face, but I really did rely on myself for college. Didn't you teach me to always tell the truth? Mom? How could I deceive the elders? She stomped her foot in anger. In any case, don't bring up the loan again in the future. I shrugged casually, feeling utterly delighted inside. Chapter 12. In the afternoon, I was getting ready to leave, but Paul asked me to stay for a few days. He said it was rare for me to be home, and we should spend more time together as a family. Julia, with a sour face, said sarcastically, "Sure, stay if you want, but you can't just freeload." Oh, so staying in my own home is freeloading now? I looked at Paul. Brother, didn't you say the whole family was eager for me to come home? But it seems like my sister-in-law isn't welcoming me. That's not what your sister-in-law means. He pulled me aside, lowering his voice. You know, staying at home still costs money, and Julia's bound to have some thoughts about that. So how about this? You take your nephew out this afternoon, buy some things, and bring a gift for your sister-in-law. While you're here, just be helpful. Say less. Do more. Keep an eye out. And Julia won't give you a hard time. In my previous life, he taught me to behave like this too. At that time, I obediently listened to him, worked hard, gave gifts, and tried to please Julia. I often took my little nephew to the mall, and each time, the brat would always pick the most expensive things. If I refused to buy them, he would cry, throw tantrums, and lie down on the ground, refusing to get up. When we returned, he would complain that I had bullied him. I spent the money and still got blamed. Chapter 13. I didn't respond directly. I slowly walked to my room and opened the door. Unsurprisingly, it had already become Julia's storage room. I glanced at Paul and then at my parents. Smiling, I said, "I'd like to stay, but where will I sleep?" My mom looked embarrassed and explained, "You don't come home often, so the room was empty. Your sister-in-law just put some things in there. You can make do and sleep on the sofa for these few days. Mom will make it up for you, and I promise it'll be more comfortable than your old room." I almost laughed out loud, so I had to spend money and work hard, bow down and humble myself, all just to earn the privilege of sleeping on the sofa for a few days? Sometimes, it's really hard to understand. What exactly is the role of a daughter in a family? She's family, but there isn't even an inch of space for her at home. She's a guest, but she doesn't receive even the basic courtesy that a guest would. I spread my hands and sighed. My back aches from work, and I finally get a few days off, only to be told to sleep on the sofa. This is going to kill me. When I visit a friend's house, they prepare a guest room for me, but when I come home, I don't even have a bed. If someone saw this, they'd think I'm facing some kind of trial or tribulation instead of coming home. With that, I turned and left. My little nephew stood by the door, looking at me expectantly. I blinked at him. "It's not that your aunt doesn't want to play with you. It's just that there's nowhere for me to stay at home. There's nothing I can do. If I have to spend money anyway, why not stay at a hotel?" Chapter 14. The next day, I went to the countryside to visit my grandmother. I also brought some gifts for the neighbors who had taken care of me when I was young. I grew up as a left-behind child, raised by my grandmother. My parents often forgot to send living expenses. Grandma was just an old woman from the countryside who couldn't earn much, and life was tough. Seeing how pitiful my grandmother was, the neighbors would often bring rice, oil, and vegetables, and sometimes even give me treats. For a drop of water, I would repay with a spring. I have never been an ingrate. When I brought the gifts to their door, my grandmother was so moved she cried. The neighbor auntie smiled brightly, praising me for growing up so well and being so thoughtful. I happily drank tea and had lunch with them, seeing that the auntie also had 2 young granddaughters staying with her. I bought some snacks for the girls and gave them 2 red envelopes. When Julia found out, her eyes practically bled. You don't even spoil your own nephew, but you go and spoil other people's kids. I smiled sweetly and replied, the elders spread good karma, so that the children can reap the rewards. Chapter 15. After the new year, I went back to work. For the next few months, I focused on my job and barely kept in touch with my family, until Julia's due date approached. She sent me a link to a baby stroller. When we had our first child, you were still in school, and we didn't say anything. Now the second one is coming. You should fulfill your duty as an aunt, right? I checked the price, 13,000 yuan, almost the same price as those celebrity-endorsed ones. Without thinking, I refused. What normal person needs such an expensive stroller? How long have I been working? Where would I get that kind of money? She snapped. You didn't say you were broke when you spent money on strangers, but when it comes to your own nephew, suddenly you have no money, right? Your parents raised you, and have you ever repaid them? You can't even support your own brother. What daughter is as selfish as you? I sipped my coffee. Exactly. I have money for everyone else, just not for you. It's my money, and it's my freedom to spend it however I want. What are you going to do? Call the police? She was furious, crying and cursing. I finished my coffee, enjoyed a lovely tea snack, and got ready to leave work. Chapter 16. However, that same night, Paul called in a panic. Anna, what did you say to your sister-in-law? She's about to give birth. Can't you cut her some slack? Apparently, after getting rejected by me, Julia had cried and argued with Paul for most of the night. Now she was feeling unwell and had been admitted to the hospital for observation. It's just a stroller, even if you can't afford it. You should have apologized and sent her a red envelope instead of saying such harsh words to provoke her. Let me tell you, if anything happens to her or the baby, you'll pay for it. His voice over the phone was seething with rage, as if he could strangle me through the line. I lay in bed, stunned. Accusations just fell on me from nowhere. I sighed. Brother, I'm not taking on such a huge responsibility. If my words alone could cause problems for your wife, then every pregnant woman who doesn't want a baby should just call me. Who needs a doctor anymore? And besides, if Julia's condition is so serious, why aren't you there taking care of her instead of arguing with me? He was rendered speechless. He angrily hung up. Chapter 17. It turned out that Julia wasn't in any real danger. The doctor said she just had some emotional distress, which caused false labor contractions. Resting for a few days would be enough. Paul even came and offered a formal apology, claimed that he was too emotional that day and didn't mean it, so I shouldn't take it to heart. After his long-winded explanation, he finally got to the point. The due date is 2 weeks away, and the public hospital conditions back home are poor. Julia's health isn't great, and she'd prefer a hospital with better service. Since you're in Shanghai, where there are many international hospitals, why don't you arrange it? My mom chimed in. Yes, Anna. After all, this situation started because of you. You should help out. Consider it compensation for your sister-in-law. The high-end international hospitals in Shanghai are the ones that cater to celebrities and international guests. Without private insurance, an average person would go bankrupt for a visit. He really had the nerve to ask. I didn't refuse outright but instead started calculating the costs. All right, brother. Do you want United Family or Jehui? The consultation fee is a couple thousand, and the natural birth package costs 70 or 80,000. You send me the money first, and I'll book it right away. Apparently, this was beyond what he expected, and his voice became agitated. That expensive? Are you kidding me? Private hospitals have fixed prices. If you don't believe me, you can call and ask. He went silent. After a moment, he spoke again. All the family's money is tied up in inventory right now. How about you cover it first? And once the goods sell, I'll pay you back. His store had been losing money year after year. Waiting for him to make a profit? Probably in the next lifetime. I shrugged. Then there's nothing I can do. I just paid rent, and I don't have a penny left. If you don't have money, why don't you borrow some from your boss or colleagues? Having a baby is a big deal. It can't be taken lightly. We're family. You should help out. Would I, as your brother, take advantage of you? I was getting more and more speechless. Borrow money from colleagues? That would be the end of my job. Brother, are you joking? The workplace frowns on colleagues getting into financial entanglements, and the company policy also doesn't allow it. He then switched to his lecture mode. If you don't say anything and they don't say anything, who would know? It's just that you're not good at getting along with others. I've always told you to be diligent at work, clean up, make tea for the boss, run errands. Once you build those relationships, you'd have no problem getting favors. My silence was deafening. It was hard to believe that these words were being said by a living person in the 21st century. Absolutely absurd. Oh, since you're so good at networking, how much have you earned? Why are you still asking your sister to pay for your wife's childbirth? Hitting a sore spot. He became furious. What are you so proud of? Don't underestimate me just because I'm struggling now. People like you with no vision won't get far. But when I start making money, don't come begging me. Me, all right. My 30-year-old youth. Chapter 18. Since she couldn't stay at a high-end international hospital, Julia started causing trouble again, threatening to get a divorce. In the end, my mom took out her savings, tens of thousands, to calm her down. Half a month later, Julia gave birth to a daughter, although it wasn't as grand as when my nephew was born. The whole family was still happy. Having both a son and a daughter is a dream for most families. Julia posted her thoughts on her second child in her circle of friends. A son having a sister means support, and a daughter has a family. When we're gone, they'll have each other in this world as companions. My children will definitely support each other, unlike some people who are selfish and cut ties with their own family. When I saw it, I found it absurd and laughable, because when I was a child, my mother said the same thing, and the reality was that after my brother got married, I no longer had a home. Chapter 19. This time around, without my support, their second child life was clearly not as blissful. The pressure of raising two kids was immense. The baby formula for my niece, the diapers, my nephew's kindergarten tuition, everything cost money. Julia insisted on premium upbringing. Everything had to be the best and the most expensive. My dad's salary wasn't enough, even with all the subsidies he provided them. Naturally, they couldn't buy a home in a good school district or get a new car like in my previous life. Their daily life was full of quarrels and chaos. Meanwhile, my career was thriving. In my third year at work, my direct supervisor resigned. I applied for the department vacancy. With my project track record, I successfully got promoted to team leader, with a 30% salary increase. Chapter 20. When I went back to visit my grandmother again, I accidentally found out that my neighbor's aunt's granddaughter was about to drop out of school. I remembered those two little girls I had given red envelopes to. The elder one was named Lily, currently in 9th grade, and the younger one was Laura, just in 5th grade. Their parents had had an accident a few years back, their mother passed away, and their father was paralyzed. The two grandparents were taking care of their granddaughters through odd jobs. Last month, the children's grandfather passed away from a stroke. The neighbor aunt couldn't afford to support both kids anymore, so she had to sacrifice one of them. After hearing this, I felt conflicted. After much consideration, I sought out the little girl and decided to sponsor them. Having been through the rain myself, I wanted to hold an umbrella for someone else. Chapter 21. This news reached my mother's ears. She came to talk to me. Your nephew is about to start primary school, and he doesn't even have a place yet. But you're out there raising someone else's kids. I looked innocent. Those poor girls lost their parents, but my nephew still has his parents. Doesn't he? She was so mad her face twisted, calling me ungrateful and heartless. Chapter 22. 2 months later, it was my father's birthday. The family held a small gathering and invited me to come home for a meal. This time, for once, everyone in the family seemed to be in a good mood. Halfway through dinner, Paul suddenly brought up, Dad will be turning 60 this year, and it's time for us children to fulfill our duties. He suggested that we both pitch in equally to buy a retirement home for our parents. Our place is too remote, and it's inconvenient to see a doctor if anything happens. I've thought about it, and we should buy near People's Square, a good location, close to the hospital too. He spoke while showing the houses he had visited. All 4-bedroom model homes. People's Square, if I remember correctly, is also the area with the best schools in the city. I took a slow sip of my tea. If it's for our parents, why do you need 4 bedrooms? He said. We plan to live together. The kids can't do without their grandparents. And living together means I can take care of Mom and Dad. By taking care, he meant Dad would work to support their whole family, and Mom would do the laundry, cook, and look after the kids. I suppressed the irony rising within me. Whose name will be on the deed then? His eyes flickered. We're all family. Does it matter whose name is on it? If it doesn't matter, then put my name on it? I raised an eyebrow, smiling. How could that be right? It's a house for Mom and Dad. And if it's under your name, it becomes yours. You sure know how to calculate. Oh, and if it's under your name, that's not calculating? All right. Stop fighting. My mom interrupted. We were originally planning to put it under your dad's name, but your nephew needs to be enrolled in school, so we'll just put it under your brother's. We're all family. Don't be so particular. You put in the money, and the family will leave you a room. When you get married, you'll have a place to stay when you come home for the holidays. I was amused. It had been a long time since I'd heard such a ridiculous joke. I tilted my head and observed this family. So, you want me to put up half the money for a school district house for your son? Mom, do I look like a fool? Paul wasn't pleased. What do you mean by buying it for me? I already said it's a retirement home for Mom and Dad. Whose name they put on it is up to them. They raised you, fed you, clothed you, and put you through school. Isn't it your duty to repay them? Other daughters hand over their salaries right after graduation. What have you done for Mom and Dad? How much money have you given them? You need to learn gratitude. It was our parents who gave us life. They could ask you to buy a house or even give your life, and it would be justified. He rambled on, his self-righteous arrogance spreading over the table like a stench, making all the dishes instantly unappetizing. I really didn't feel like arguing with him. Yeah, I'm ungrateful, heartless, and lacking filial piety, but no one is more filial than you, right? With you, the model son, there's no need for me to pitch in for the house. You can get a 4-bedroom place. Heck, even a seaside villa if you want. Go for it. Whether our parents can live in luxury depends on you. With that, I turned and left. However, after just one meal, my bag disappeared. It was an LV handbag, with my ID card, bank cards, and a bunch of important documents inside. Chapter 23. Everyone had been at the dining table eating just a moment ago. Only one person had been playing near the sofa. So, I looked toward my little nephew. Julia immediately stepped in front of him, glaring at me defensively. What do you mean by that? Are you saying my son stole your things? Paul chimed in too. It's just a bag, right? Buy a new one later. Don't scare the kid. I didn't say anything. I simply took out a formaldehyde test strip. This bag is a fake I bought at a leather market. It was cheap, but the leather quality wasn't great. I did a test on it this morning, and it turns out it's been soaked in formaldehyde. Contact with it can cause cancer, and it's even more dangerous for children. Now the whole family panicked. Julia was stomping her feet anxiously. Why didn't you say so earlier? Are you trying to hurt my son on purpose? I rolled my eyes and sneered. I watched as she hurriedly took my nephew to wash his hands, then rushed into the room to throw the bag out. Take your things and get out. If anything happens to my son, you won't be able to pay for it in your lifetime. I caught the bag steadily. As I was leaving, I turned and smiled at her. Oh, by the way, sister-in-law, I forgot to mention, this one is genuine. The one soaked in formaldehyde has already been thrown away. My bad memory. After that, I ignored her furious curses and walked out. Chapter 24. Unable to get anything out of me, and with not enough savings for a house, My parents decided to buy a small old apartment. But Julia said, living in a small apartment is oppressive. It's not good for the child's development. Paul also said that buying an old and broken place was embarrassing, with no other options. My dad had to shamelessly ask around for loans, but even after asking every relative and friend, they still couldn't gather enough money. My mom came to me again to work on my thoughts. Helping your brother is helping your parents. When we're gone, he'll be your only family left. If you get bullied at your in-laws' place after you get married, won't it be your brother who stands up for you? If you don't help him now, no one will have your back in the future, and you'll regret it. I calmly ate my dessert. A man who can't even stand on his own 2 feet and is still mooching off his parents at his age, how exactly is he supposed to back me up? Marriage isn't mandatory, and even if I end up with a jerk, spending a few thousand to hire a lawyer will solve it. No need to spend hundreds of thousands for someone to have my back. She was once again left speechless. Chapter 25. Seeing that I wasn't responding to either soft or hard tactics, and the whole family was at a loss, Paul found a new opportunity. The A-shares market, which had been silent for a long time, suddenly came back to life. Paul suggested mortgaging our parents' current house to try our luck in the stock market, saying we could definitely make money. Thus, the last safeguard for our family's livelihood was mortgaged away just like that. In just a couple of days, the profits were soaring. He even called me specifically to boast. See that? You underestimate me. I just smiled and didn't say anything. In my previous life, the stock market also surged around this time, but it wouldn't be long before it crashed and made everyone question their life choices. Knowing Paul's personality, he definitely wouldn't stop while he was ahead. The outcome was predictable. Our parents lost their last house too, but that wasn't even the worst part. Chapter 26. A few days later, I received another call from my mom, crying her heart out. Anna, it's a matter of life and death. You have to save your brother. Paul had gone mad after his stock trading failure and tried to jump off a building. Fortunately, he was caught by the neighbor's balcony below, and now lay in the hospital with broken bones. After waking up, he insisted on seeing me. Chapter 27. I walked into the hospital room, and Paul lay there wrapped up like a mummy. When he saw me, he began to struggle. I was the one who paid for your college. You can't just be ungrateful. He actually remembered. I stood beside his bed, watching him get agitated, and laughed. You remembered the past life. Huh? Did you enjoy spending my compensation money? He was shameless. You only have yourself to blame for dying early. The compensation was for the family, so why shouldn't I spend it? If it weren't for me, would you have gone to college in your last life? Would you have gotten a decent job? So, without you, did it stop me from going to college in this life? I stepped closer and looked at him calmly, as he rambled on. But what about you? Without the so-called kindness as leverage, how come you're failing now? His voice grew agitated. What do you mean, leverage? I paid for your education and ended up raising an enemy? Truly, giving someone a little help earns you resentment instead of gratitude. You're just an ungrateful wretch, and no excuses can change that. I've been called ungrateful for 2 lifetimes now. In the last life, you lent me 40,000 yuan, but you took at least 400,000 from me in return. You can't count it that way. If I gave you a bottle of water in the desert, do you just give me another bottle when you're back in the city, and call it even? Funding your education was a huge favor, and you'd never pay that back, even in 2 lifetimes. I was amused again, but was that bottle of water really yours? And who led me into the desert in the first place? Someone shamelessly occupied resources that should have belonged to me, then turned around and acted all generous while tossing me some scraps, expecting gratitude from me. It's absurd and laughable. If you want a return, then call it an investment. Don't dress it up as some grand favor to make yourself look good. 40,000 yuan. For years of time, what kind of financial product yields over 10 times the return? You talk about favors because you know, with a normal investment, your principal wouldn't even come close to the return you expect. You just want to gamble small for a big return. My voice was calm, and each word struck right at his sore spot. The muscles of his face twitched beneath the bandages, and he ground his teeth audibly. Before he could speak, I continued. Funding a college student so you can demand a lifetime of return, then why bother jumping off a building? Why not head to the university town, invest in some students, and make them pay back tenfold after graduation? You'll get rich quick. I spoke leisurely, and then, as if remembering something, oh, I forgot. You're broke now. The house is gone, and you're drowning in medical bills. Finishing cheerfully, I walked out of the hospital room just as cheerfully. Behind me, I heard his voice full of rage. Ungrateful wretch. May you die a miserable death. Chapter 28. Afterward, my parents came to me crying several times, but to no avail. They had no choice but to transfer ownership of the family shop to gather enough money for Paul's treatment. My mom, while taking care of the kids, took on a job cleaning in the neighborhood. My dad, at his age, worked 2 jobs. Julia cursed people daily, complaining about her unfortunate marriage and their lack of capability. The whole family was in chaos. The 2 elders had worked tirelessly for most of their lives and ended up with nothing but illnesses in their old age. Chapter 29. In the following years, my career progressed steadily, and I was promoted to middle management. The 2 young girls I sponsored both got into college. After Lily graduated, she started transferring money to me. Grandma always told me that one must understand gratitude. Sister, all the money you gave me over the years, I will pay back double. I accepted the principal but refused the interest. Our society should nurture independent, well-rounded people, not grateful slaves. Sponsorship is about passing on kindness, not shackles. You don't need to live with a sense of guilt. Back when the neighbor auntie helped my grandma and me, she never did it to gain anything. In the same way, when I helped these 2 girls, I didn't expect anything in return. If you start with an ulterior motive, every penny given will be begrudged, wanting to claw back 100 or 1,000 times over. That isn't kindness, it's calculation. I spent a lifetime breaking free of those shackles. I won't place them on anyone else.